Hey everyone, how's it going? So I know that season 2 of The Mandalorian already aired its final episode a little over a month ago, and so as far as internet time goes, that's basically 1,000 years. So I know I'm a little late to the party to get my review out there, but don't care. I don't even care if only one person watches this. This was a fun season for me, so I really want to talk about it. This isn't really going to be so much of a review per se, as it is kind of just me talking about, my impressions or what I really liked about the season, stuff like that. So in a way, it's sort of a half review and, half, I don't know, my opinion maybe? I don't know. One other thing I should mention as well, if it wasn't obvious by my accent, I'm Australian. I know it's not a real bogan hick, dead possum fucking accent that the Australians do have, but it's Australian nonetheless. So still, with that being said, being Australian, there's two things you're not going to get from me on or any point on this channel, and that is political correctness and clean language. So there's your warning. If you have sensitive ears, go watch another video. Right, so I'll just review this episode by episode. So starting off with the first episode, the Marshal. We see the Mandalorian. Now we know his name is Din, with Baby Yoda. Also, we now know the child's name is Grogu, as he's looking for information basically in order to find another Mandalorian. And so, he goes to the cycloptic fucking thing in the match with the fucking pig creatures and everything, fighting and all that kind of great stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool, where's this going? And then, of course it leads to a little altercation where he has to fight his way out, track down the cycloptic motherfucker, whose name I don't fucking remember, sorry, fucking sue me, but he then catches up with the dude and then, strings him up, as we all saw in the episode. If you didn't, I should probably warn you, there's gonna be massive spoilers in this. Anyway, he basically gets the information out of him where the dude says, oh yeah, the Mandalorian you're after is on Tatooine. Like most people, my first thought was, is that Boba? Please tell me it's fucking Boba. Are we gonna get Boba Fett? I don't even give a fuck if he was actually a Mandalorian or not. Of course, if he's in that armor, people are automatically going to assume he's Mandalorian. And of course, he was like, okay, if you tell me what I want to know, you're not gonna die by my by my hands or whatever it was that he said. But basically, we've seen it a million times before. We already knew the guy was fucking dead and he was gonna get killed by other means. And sure enough, that happened. Boom! Out goes the light. There come all those creepy fucking creatures, whatever the fuck that was. But anyway, and of course he travels over to, back to Tatooine. He speaks to that, chick, the mechanic or whatever her name was. And then she's like, yeah, basically, just go here and, this is where you need to be. So he finally goes there, and then, oh man, that reveal of not Boba Fett, but I thought it was. And keep in mind, I watched every single one of these episodes with my girlfriend right beside me, and so yeah, I don't know why she didn't just punch me and knock me the fuck out, because every single time there was those fan service moments, I'm giggling like a fucking retarded 5-year-old, and I'm like, sometimes it was a little bit beyond 5-year-olds. Over enthusiasm. I'm talking like an ADHD trouble child that you've just, decided, oh, we'll give you a little bit of sherbet here, because you've been a little bit of a good boy today. And of course, because the parents are fucking retarded drug addicts, they accidentally fuck it up and they give them the cocaine instead, and the child's just going, just nuts all fucking day long. And that was basically me when I saw the reveal of, well, it was actually Cobb Vanth, played by Timothy Olyphant, who's, I'm really glad that he's actually getting more work, by the way. But anyway, camera pans and then reveals the dude in the suit, and of course I'm like, holy shit, is that Boba? He looks a lot skinnier than what I remember Boba being, which is ironic because when the actual Boba gets in the suit, he's a bit bigger than what we remember. So man, what the fuck are motherfuckers eating on Tatooine? Just saying. Crate dragons apparently. So anyway, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then he starts talking and I'm like, that's not Boba. But anyway, unless they change the voice a third fucking time, because, Boba's voice was never changed ever in history. But getting to that later. So we travel over to the table with Cobb Vanth. It's basically, the little altercation takes place between, Mando and then, Cobb Vanth. He says, yeah, I bought it from some Jawas. I've actually read the book where Cobb Vanth was introduced. His story where he says how he got the armor is a little bit different to the novel, so I don't know if they've retconned that in some way, but I'm sure that's a talk for another day. But anyway, or maybe it's just the whole, what Obi-Wan says, from a certain point of view. So anyway, then seeing the fucking crate dragon come out of the sand and just completely engulf that bantha the way that sluts engulf dick in pornos, I'm like, whoa, they've been watching Tremors for sure. I actually haven't seen Tremors, but I've seen like, when my girlfriend's watching it, I'll walk past the TV as she's like playing it because she had a marathon recently, and you see enough to generally get an idea as to know that Tremors was an inspiration. And then of course I saw the behind the scenes, and apparently yes, Tremors was an inspiration for this, but that's still fine because I thought, wow, they did this really well. And as far as CGI goes, normally you can, obviously the Krayt Dragon CGI, and you can tell it is, but it's a far more realistic looking CGI, just with the way that the light bounces off of it, and like its movements, and the way the sand was falling off of it. I'm like, wow, that's pretty awesome. There was actually times where I thought, is this maybe just like a puppet that they put behind a green screen and then, added some little other effects on it and everything like that to make it look more realistic? So, I thought the Krayt Dragon was really good, and I thought, man, in terms of doing a opening episode for a new season, I thought this was done incredibly well. And so especially to see like a new way of looking at the Tuscan Raiders, because throughout all the live action movies they were basically just known as being, pissed off, very territorial, mindless, monsters. And I am directly quoting from Attack of the Clones here. And so, to see, like, the Mandalorian and Colvan try and make a deal with them, you can actually see that they've actually got a much more humane side. So I thought that was really cool, that they were able to put their differences aside and work together towards a common cause of taking down this Krayt Dragon, which I thought was a pretty great, scene. So much, in fact, that I didn't even notice that the screen went from widescreen to, well, the other kind of widescreen, but I don't fucking know the exact name of them, if it was like, what's it called, like the anamorphic style of, anyway, whatever the fucking measurements are, but basically the wider screen where you, on a standard TV, would see two black bars above and below. So that widescreen is like two little boxes together, and then the other sort of widescreen is where it's not quite as panned out, it's basically a square, and then if you were to cut that square in half to form a perfect rectangle, then put that beside it. Whatever the fuck that's called, okay? I apologize for not knowing my, screen ratio fucking numbers or anything, but yeah, as that action scene is taking place towards the end of the film where they're trying to get the dragon out and everything like that, the screen, widens up. So if you didn't notice that, look again, and if your version is only just in the stretched out widescreen, well, you probably downloaded it and someone cropped it that way and fixed it at that ratio. So that was the only episode out of the 8 in the season that did that, by the way. But anyway, just a little something I thought was pretty interesting that they did. I'm like, okay, I don't know why they decided to do a different screen ratio, but, that was pretty cool. So, and yeah, there was a really neat ending as well. I thought, that was pretty cool. Not to mention the little bits of, I guess we can call maybe Easter eggs or references that only, really big Star Wars nerds like me would pick up on. For example, the speeder that Colt Van was on, I'm like, that's Anakin's pod racer engine. I fucking recognize that shit immediately. And it's, I don't know, a little bit painful when I have to watch some reaction videos where other people are like, that looks like Anakin's pod racer engine. Yeah, there might be a reason for that, but okay, we won't talk about that. Moving on. So, yeah, that was pretty cool. And after all that, I was still just wondering, well, what the fuck happened to Boba? Like, that's obviously his armor. That iconic dint as well is pretty hard to miss. And just for trivia as well, in one of the cancelled episodes of Clone Wars, they were going to show how we got that fucking dint in the helmet, and it was by Cad Bane. Very amazing villain, by the way. I really love that character, and so there's unreleased like beta-looking sort of footage of it and everything on there where you can see what happened if you want to go check that out on YouTube. But yeah, I just figured I'd just point that out because, that's how the dint ended up in Boba's helmet. So if you see the dint in that helmet, regardless if it was painted, pretty good chance that it's Boba's helmet. So yeah, all in all, I thought that was opening episode was really great, and good performance by a lot of people, including, like I said, Timothy Olyphant, which, it's good to see him getting more work, because he's usually no one's first choice. Normally he winds up getting roles after other actors turn the roles down, and then he has to wait for it to go to him. So I don't know if that's what happened with this particular role that he got, but all in all, it was pretty good to see him in this, playing this character. I thought he did a really good job. It was pretty awesome as well to see, just like the suit that he was wearing, the armor, still functional, and, still fires rockets, still, all that stuff. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know how long it was inside the Sarlacc for, because we don't actually know how long Boba was in there before he got out. So I don't know if the Sarlacc got injured during the explosion of the sail barge in Return of the Jedi, and then, he got it that way, but I don't know. They'll probably explain that in the spin-off book of Boba Fett. But man, the way they ended that episode with, the camera panning across and then, you just see Temuera Morrison, I'm like, huh. It took me a couple of seconds to recognize him because the last thing I ever saw him in was Attack of the Clones. Oh, sorry, technically it was Revenge of the Sith. Forget it's still the same actor playing the clones, because, of course. So Revenge of the Sith was the last thing I saw him in, where he was, skinnier and he, had the hair and everything. So to see him bald and kind of look with the, what's the word I'm looking for, disfigurement on the face, similar to that of the Hound in Game of Thrones. It took me a little while to recognize him, but, the moment I saw the eyes, which was the giveaway, I'm like, no, no. My girlfriend's like, okay, calm down, who is it? I'm like, that's motherfucking Temuera Morrison. I'm like, I swear, that's Boba Fett right there. I'm like, maybe would be a different clone, but I don't know, just the way that he was looking at the event and everything like that, like, I'm certain that that's got to be Boba. And so, obviously it ultimately did end up becoming Boba, and I knew Temuera Morrison was going to be in this season, but it was never confirmed he was definitely playing Boba. For all I knew, he could have been playing Rex, because Temuera Morrison could play any one of the clone characters. So yeah, that was a really great way to end the episode, and I'm like, oh, I'm so pumped now. So, moving on to episode 2, The Passenger. This was my least favorite episode of the season, and a lot of people are saying, oh, it was just a filler. Well, just because it's the least best episode of the season does not make it a filler. Fillers are basically shit that's just there that doesn't really go anywhere, that you can kind of remove and the whole season still makes sense. Whereas I felt that, this was still, in some way, pushing the plot forward. And a lot of people were complaining about the fact that Grogu was eating the eggs of the fucking frog lady, who to me looked more like a gecko, but whatever. Apparently it's meant to be, like, related to a frog. And, I was just like, dark humor. Cool. And other people were like, oh my god, this is genocide and everything. Oh my god, the internet these days, I try to ignore it, but sometimes, like, I'm just, reading these comments, just going, Twitch. But yeah, that was kind of cool as well. It kind of had a bit of a horror-esque vibe to it, just with the giant spiders and stuff like that. So, at first, I'm still not sure, are they the same spiders that were in Star Wars Rebels? So I wasn't sure if that was the same species of spiders. They look similar, but, maybe it was a different species. It's hard to say, because, in real life here on Earth, and keep in mind, this is coming from someone that comes from a place that created spiders, Australia, we have spiders here that are different breeds and yet they look similar. So I'm just saying, these spiders in this episode could have been a different breed, but either way, I thought it was a pretty decent episode, and of course, like most people in the trailer, we all thought that place may have been Ilum, but turns out, it's not. It was just a different planet that just so happened to be, another snow planet. But, whatever. It's fine. And to see Dave Filoni also playing as an X-Wing pilot, reprising his role from Season 1 was also pretty cool. But yeah, of course, most of the spotlight was taken by the other X-Wing pilot who had most of the spoken dialogue, but, that's fine. I'm sure if Dave Filoni really wanted to do all those lines, he could have, because, well, it's Dave Filoni. But I guess, he feels that his strengths are better with, animation and directing and story writing as opposed to acting. And I do think he is a great story writer. Not taking that away from the man. But yeah, all in all, there's not really much I can say about that episode because, not a lot happened. It was basically, Mandalorian's got to transport this motherfucker to, this other place, and of course on the way, he gets intercepted by the X-Wing pilots and then winds up on the fucking snow planet, and then, he's, that's where he's trapped with the other spiders. And so, it's always cool to see something where, they create a main character that's not perfect in every way and invincible, because there's so many occasions where this guy would be dead if other people didn't come along to save him, including, in this case, the X-Wing pilots. They show up and they're just, like, popping these fucking spiders and shit like that, like it's, I don't know, like some arcade game or some shit. And so, but yeah, it was kind of cool as well to see them just, let him go. They were like, no, we're not going to fix your ship or anything like that. Sorry, don't push your fucking luck. We're letting you go, motherfucker. This is on you right now. And yeah, so then the next episode, whatever the fuck it was called, I remember what was it, the Ares or something, anyway. In the trailer, everyone saw Sasha Banks, okay, the wrestler that was playing, I remember the surname was Reeves, I don't remember the first name exactly, but basically, everyone's like, is that Sasha Banks going to be playing Sabine, and I'm like, oh my god, just because her fucking picture or that footage of her was shown as the background narration mentions the word Jedi or something like that, doesn't mean that it's going to be Sabine, okay? And I thought, nah, someone like Sabine, meaning no offense to Sasha Banks, even though I'm not a wrestling fan, I'm just saying, no offense to her, I think they would have chosen someone that was actually like, an actress to play Sabine if they're going to bring her into live action. They're not just going to hire a wrestler. So, the character that Sasha Banks was playing in this, just being, another Mandalorian, I'm like, yeah, okay, I think that was, like, the best way that they could have used Sasha Banks. And, like I said, even though I'm not a fan of wrestling, I do know you need to have some, fighting skills, at least something that can look cool on screen, to be in that industry. So I thought, okay, yeah, to see her do the stuff that she was doing, I think worked well for the Mandalorian character that she was playing. But yeah, the real reason why people got hyped over that episode is because we finally got to see Bo-Katan in live action, and that was pretty awesome, especially because, Katie Sackhoff being the voice actress of that character, reprising her role. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. So yeah, that was pretty awesome. And also, I've actually met Katie Sackhoff in real life back in, I think, 2010, 2011 at a convention that we have in Australia called Supernova. And she was there with the Battlestar Galactica cast, signing autographs and all that. And, I was working security there. But, I was always more of a 24 fan. It's one of my favorite shows, and she was in the 8th season. And so I saw her in 24 before I actually watched anything of Battlestar. So for me, I kind of knew her more so from that. And so, I was asking her a bit of questions of that when I met her. And, she's a very, very down-to-earth, polite individual. So just wanted to point that out there to say that, to actually, see her in something else. Because regardless of how many celebrities I met in real life, I won't go out of my way to watch something just because they're in it. I want to watch movies and shows that I legitimately want to watch anyway. And if they so happen to be in it, awesome. So it's cool to see her in something else that I wanted to watch anyway. And so I'm like, yeah, that's cool to see her actually reprise this role. And I thought that she did a really excellent job. The second, I saw her show up and, it was cool. I'm like, oh, that's Bo-Katan. I recognize that fucking helmet. Don't you for a second think I don't? And then, of course, they take their helmets off and I'm like, oh, cool. Is Mando going to ask why the fuck they're doing that, and are we going to get an explanation about it? And we did. And I pretty much predicted that, he was just raised by an extremist group that have a different way of viewing Mandalorian culture and all that kind of stuff, and so, it's basically all been confirmed now. So I'm just glad that they were able to wrap that up. Because, I did, of course, watch Clone Wars and Rebels prior to seeing The Mandalorian, and so, like most people that also did the same thing, they were like, why do you have to not take your helmet off? Clearly, Mandalorians did that all the time in Clone Wars. Can we get a fucking explanation here? So now we have one, and that's awesome. But yeah, as for the rest of that episode, the highlights of me were basically, to see just Bo-Katan again. And then, of course, later on when they're on that vessel to track down that other general or whatever, or the dude that was in the cockpit in charge that took the suicide capsule. I don't know what the fuck it is. The thing that electrocuted him to death from the mouth. And when she said that the guy's got something that I need, anyone that's seen Rebels knows it was the Darksaber. Okay. As for the name drop of Ahsoka Tano, I'm like, yes, because she is my favorite Star Wars character ever. And keep in mind, I'm one of the people in the minority that wasn't annoyed by her character when she was introduced in Clone Wars. I actually liked her from the very beginning. Of course, I knew she wasn't a perfect character and was still young and naive and had a lot to learn, but I already knew that was the point, because if you make a character perfect from the beginning, you can't really develop and grow on that character, so it's like, well, where do you go with this? But yeah, I always really loved her cat-like sassiness, that was the thing that always really drew me to that character, and so, so I followed her all these years and really loved to see how her character's grown and developed, and so I was very much looking forward to seeing her in live action finally. And when I heard the rumors that Rosario Dawson was going to be playing the character, it only took me about 2 seconds to realize that was a great choice, because they very much, if we're going by the Clone Wars animations, they look very similar in the face. So I'm like, Rosario Dawson, Ahsoka from Clone Wars, I'm down with this. I don't think they look anything alike in Rebels, but anyway, it's beside the point. Those were different animations that they did, and it was a bit of a departure from Clone Wars. But all in all, a lot of people were complaining too that Ashley Eckstein was not chosen to play Ahsoka. in the live action, and I get where people are coming from. You need to understand something as well, is that they also needed someone that could do a lot of the fighting as well. Yes, I know stunt performers also did a lot of the more complicated things, and I'm not saying that Ashley Eckstein couldn't have done a lot of that stuff, but maybe she couldn't have. Maybe she just didn't want to do the live action performance. There's a lot of things that you need to consider with this, and so just because someone is great at doing a voice acting role doesn't mean that they necessarily have all the skills required to bring that over into live action. So just putting that out there. But no, I think Rosario Dawson did a great job. Also, keep in mind, for any actor or actress that I'm going to mention that does a great performance, a lot of people, when I'm talking about this, not really on this channel, but in real life, often say, but did you know that this person has this way of viewing life, or they're about this way of fucking politics? I don't fucking care. Someone's political beliefs or anything else they fucking believe in is completely irrelevant to me when it comes to playing a character. That's why it's called acting. You be someone that you are not in real life. So just wanted to put that out there in case anyone feels the need to bring any of that shit up. I don't fucking care. I'm talking about a fucking character they're playing in a fucking fictitious universe. So yes, Rosario Dawson, just playing the character Ahsoka, I thought she did a good job. With that being said, I saw a lot of fan art and photoshops and stuff like that as to what she may look like prior to this episode airing, and one of the fan arts I thought actually looked better than the way she looked in the episode. And so, yeah, all in all, I thought she looked okay, and I don't want to sound like someone that would have done a better job at the makeup or anything like that. I just would have done it differently, because obviously she was introduced in the Clone Wars and her eyes were much wider in that, being animated. Because the way they animated her in the Clone Wars was meant to look like a cross between Thunderbirds and anime, and well, they nailed it in that regard. So basically what I would have done is I would have added a little bit more eyeshadow around Rosario's eyes, because you obviously can't make her eyes wider. So I would have done something to bring the illusion of her having wider eyes by bringing more focus to that area. And I also would have made her lips a little bit darker to fall more in line with the way that Ahsoka looked in the final season of Clone Wars. But, regardless of that, I thought she still looked pretty okay. And a lot of people complained that her mondrals weren't as long. Yeah, because it's a practical headpiece. You know how much that shit weighs? But yeah, from what I heard as well on the original Star Trek movies from the 80s or whatever, they also had headpieces like that too, and people were complaining of neck strains. So yeah, I get why they had to make them shorter. It also would get in the way a lot during the fight scene. So in regards to practicality, I can see why they had to make a compromise there. So that's fine. But where was I? I realized I also skipped ahead an episode as well, but it's fine. I'm going to talk about all the episodes. So yeah, episode 3 we see Bo-Katan. Really great to see that. Good episode and all. Anyway, then we go to the next episode where, my future ex-wife, Gina Carano, I'm fucking around here. Anyway, and a lot of people are like, what if your girlfriend sees this? She doesn't give a fuck about my videos, she just knows that they exist. But still, I've actually been a fan of Gina Carano before she was in movies. So to me, I still kind of know her as the martial artist more than the actress. But still, I think she does, great work in a lot of movies, and it's been really awesome to actually see her grow on her journey, even with all the fucking retarded haters on Twitter. But beside the point. So yeah, to see her again in this, I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. Pretty interesting episode, and to see the guy that we first see in the very first Mandalorian episode, that was, the bounty. So to see him back working off a debt and whatever with Cullweather's character, who, I don't really remember seeing him in anything outside of the first Predator film, but it's cool to see a lot of these guys that were in other iconic roles getting more work. So yeah, that episode, I know, really the highlights for that was the joke made about the green shirt guy who you see in the side frame, which has since been edited out. But other than that, I'm like, oh, okay, these little clone things that they're making. And I'm sure I thought what most people thought. Are they making little Snokes? Are they? I'm wondering. But, yeah, the thing too, and of course Disney may have changed this from canon, but I was always wondering in Rise of Skywalker, most misleading title ever, but moving on, Palpatine in that is a clone, but it was always established in the Star Wars universe prior to Disney taking over that clones or, lab-bred beings aren't able to wield the Force. So I'm always wondered, did they just remove that theory or like established thing, or is there something else to this now? So I'm wondering, okay, well, the baby Grogu, are they extracting his blood in order to infuse with, this other abomination in order to make it force sensitive? So, it seems like that's the way things are going, even though it's not really confirmed yet, but I don't know. Hopefully we'll get an explanation later on. So, that's really all I got about from that 4th episode of this season. It's basically, yeah, Gina Carano, awesome. And of course, they make her a marshal at the end. I thought that was pretty awesome as well. So, yeah, and then, hey, episode 5, Ahsoka, yay! Which I really thought she was going to be introduced at the time she met the Mandalorian. I didn't think it was going to be like within the first goddamn minute, and it's like, cool, the lightsabers, there she is, and I'm like, yes! We've actually got Ahsoka in this bitch, that's pretty cool. So, also, the fucking thing at the very end of that episode as well, where, she wins the fight between the other fighter, who, from what I understand, that other fighter she was up against, I forgot the characters' names, because, sorry, it takes me a little while to remember sub-characters' names in Star Wars, because there's too many characters to remember, alright? But you know what I'm talking about. She also, I think she either trained with or under Bruce Lee, so she is sort of like, a big deal within, her little world of expertise. So it was cool to get a samurai-style showdown between these characters. I thought Ahsoka fought a little bit differently to the way that she did in Clone Wars and Rebels, but, live action, okay, fair enough. I guess there's going to be a bit of a difference there, but, yeah, I really enjoyed what it is that they did. To get that reveal of Grogu's actual name, yeah, also pretty cool. But man, they revealed a lot of information about him too, including the fact that he was raised in Coruscant in the Jedi temples. So yeah, him being raised in the Jedi temple. I'm wondering, did Yoda and Yaddle, just I'm saying, a lot of people are thinking the same thing. But yeah, at the end where Ahsoka asks that woman, where's Grand Admiral Thrawn? Man, they're just name-dropping shit, fan servicing shit everywhere. I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. So I'm like, alright, so Ezra's still missing. I guess they've set this up for the Ahsoka spin-off, which, I would say is very much the case, because it's now confirmed. We have an Ahsoka spin-off on the way. Anyway, I'm just hoping they don't fuck it up. So, with all the other shows that have been announced as well. So, it is personal to me, because, Ahsoka is a very amazing character. She's had an amazing journey with her story arc and everything like that. So, for her to actually get her own spin-off show is a big deal. And whoever it is that's behind writing all this stuff, I'm sure Dave Filoni will have some involvement, but I'm just really hoping any decisions that he makes aren't going to get fucked up by, certain people that are higher up in Lucasfilm. But then, of course, we go to the next episode where I'm like, well, the thing I was looking forward to the most in the season was Ahsoka. So I'm like, well, I got that now. How are they going to top this? Yeah, that's where Jon Favreau is just like, hold my spatchka, I got this. Motherfucking Boba Fett shows up in this bitch, and I'm like, cool. I didn't think I could want something more than the Ahsoka story. Yet Boba Fett, now keep in mind I wasn't ever a fan of Boba Fett, and also I'm 31 at the moment. When I was 7 is when I first watched Star Wars, which was, I've watched the original trilogy 2 years prior to The Phantom Menace coming out. So I can still say that I did see the originals prior to the prequels. And I never really, was the biggest Boba Fett fan because of the movies. It was the video game Shadows of the Empire that really got me into Boba Fett. And then, of course, from there I then went and read the comics and really loved the character. And so I always wanted to see Boba Fett kick-ass Boba Fett style, the way that we've seen him do it in the comic books. And to a slight lesser extent, the way that he was also kicking ass as a boss fight in Shadows of the Empire. So we could have seen a little bit of that in the Clone Wars had they not fucking cancelled the show for, Rebels. And I'm not trying to discredit Rebels, I do like the show, even though I don't like it as much as Clone Wars. I just think it would have been better if they had finished all of the episodes of Clone Wars and then gave us Rebels, but anyway. So point is that, yeah, to see him show up, I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. And with the new voice, which I did like, because when they dubbed over Boba Fett's voice in Emperor Strikes Back, with the Tamira Morrison voice, all I really heard was Jango, and I actually preferred the original voice actor for Boba because he had more of that, hardened, dark, like ravaged tone, which very much suited him being this, badass bounty hunter. And so when it was just dubbed over with, Tara's voice, I'm like, I'm not feeling it. Sorry, I'm getting a completely different vibe from this character. Worked well for Django, but yeah, I just didn't really accept it as Boba's voice. But now that we hear Boba have a new voice, like it's obviously still Tamira Morrison, but he's putting on a more dark and ravaged tone, which mirrors more or less the original voice actor of Boba Fett, and I'm like, this voice is fucking awesome. I wish they really used this voice when they did the dubbing, but, it didn't happen, but beside the point. So yeah, of all the episodes in this season, this was by far my favourite. And fuck yes to Robert Rodriguez for nailing this episode, because he was the guest director for this one. So, yeah, and he said, oh well, there's not a lot of pages in the script, and so he just said he had to fill with as much action as he could to fill up that time slot. So, hells yes. And to see Fennec make a comeback, pretty cool too, because when I saw her in season 1, she was like, but I really thought that they increased the level of badassery with her as well. So, that's pretty cool. And let me just say, that actress has really aged well for her age, for someone who believes she was 57 when that episode was aired. So, it's them good Asian genes, you know what I mean? And Tamira Morrison's 60 in this. So, yeah, he's really kicking ass. Also, his character is meant to be in the 40s. So, I guess the fact that he was eaten by a sarlacc helps explain why he looks the way that he does. And so, I cannot say enough awesome shit about how amazing his character was in this fucking episode. I mean, he's coming along with the fucking Bantha toothbrush fucking thing, like, the old stuff that he had. Dude, those stormtroopers don't stand a chance. They're the fodder in a fucking horror movie, and Boba Fett's the fucking slasher movie villain. Which, even the way that they were filming a lot of the scenes with him as well, like how they had that real emphasis, like where they were just filming of the head of the staff that he had as he's dragging it across the round and then smashing the shit out of stormtroopers' helmets, just shattering shit everywhere. That was amazing. And if you think about it, you could easily make that character a slasher movie villain. I mean, he's already got the backstory. He was eaten by a fucking beast in the ground that digests its victims slowly over 1,000 years while keeping them alive. And somehow he got out of there. That's why he looks so fucked up. I'm sure he could look worse, but anyway, you know what I mean. Like, he's already disfigured, he's got a hardened backstory, and he's got, like, this very simple but effective and intimidating weapon. So, remember, Jason Voorhees from the Friday 13th movies just carries around a standard machete. Michael Myers from the Halloween franchise is known just for being that pose with a standard kitchen knife. Then we got Candyman, which, that's just a little meat hook, and then we got Freddy Krueger, which is like this spiky fingered shit. I don't know what the fuck it's called, but you know what I mean. It's not this big, complicated, elaborate weapon. It's a very close and personal weapon where you need to get up close to the victim. So, it's like a stabbing or melee weapon. So that's what Boba had in this. So for me, yeah, he was really kind of like a slasher movie villain. And God, you gotta feel sorry, at least a little sorry for those fucking stormtroopers, man. I think if they knew what they signed up for, they would have been like, no, fuck this, nope, sorry, I'm done. And towards the end of that episode, a lot of them did say the same thing. They were just like, okay, nope, he's taking us out left, right, and center. No, we're done. Just kill. We're going now. Anyway, I wonder if any of them actually knew who he was, because, yeah. It's like, bitch, did you read the fucking comments? The comics? That's Boba motherfucking Bet you're fucking with there, man. Don't, no. Just go the fuck home, seriously. You guys can't aim for shit anyway. Just disappear. But yeah. I gotta say, him just fucking up motherfuckers left, right, and center with that thing, stabbing him on the ground. Man, he looked menacing as shit in that. Like, he's got those eyes, like, I wouldn't be surprised if that man's actually killed people in real life. Like, he's just got the eyes of a killer. Anyway, I probably shouldn't have said that on something that I'm going to put on the internet. But anyway, beside the point, I'm just saying, he came across as being very believably pissed off and, as an aggressive character. So, yeah, it definitely helped with the fact that he's meant to be the most effective and ruthless bounty hunter in the galaxy. And so, yeah, just when he showed up in that armor, I'm like, yes! This is what I'm talking about right here. Yeah. God, what can you say about it? I mean, if you've seen the episode, you know what I'm talking about. And I'm like, that's some cool shit. Just, taking on the fucking stormtroopers, and when he got that dude in the headlock, and then fucking punched him point blank and then just set the rockets in the dude's chest and sent him flying. Yeah, rocket punch, that's pretty awesome. Even the stuff that he had in the, I remember there was like this, what's it called, a bio book that I had way back in the mid-90s, and it was just basically showcasing all the stuff that, the characters had, and they, also showed like the little knee pads that he had that fired at the rockets, and so that was pretty cool to also see that in this. This may sound cliche, but I'm a really big fan of when guys are just shoot the bad guys or whatever their intended target without actually looking at him. So it was cool when the Punisher did it in season 2 of Daredevil. He's just walking along menacing with the shotgun, aims to the side, pops a dude. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's pretty cool. So Stormtrooper gets up and Boba's like, surprise, cockfag! Take that. Even the scene where he just fires the rocket into that ship and then it crashes into the other one. Because at first I thought, well, I swear he was aiming for the other one. And then Mandalorian says, nice shot. He's like, I was aiming for the other one. I'm like, okay, well done. And then, of course, the missile launched from the light cruiser, blowing up the Razor Crest. It's like, fuck! That ship was been with us since the very first episode. So, in a way, that ship was almost a character as well. Especially with how fucked up that ship constantly got throughout each episode. And so, it's like, oh man, I just had a fix. And now to see the whole thing just completely decimated, I'm like, god damn it. And of course I knew that, he was going to find a little ball that was on top of that gear stick within the wreckage. But what I'm still wondering is when he came back to Bo-Katan, because everyone is now under the assumption that Bo-Katan's a Mandalorian. Even though it's not actually really been confirmed, it's a possibility, but, all he really said, and I don't even know what the fuck he was going with it, he just basically stated to the Mandalorian, yeah, here's my DNA embedded in this armor and everything, belonged to my father, blah blah blah. So, I'm like, okay, he never actually said that he was a Mandalorian. He seemed to, implicitly suggest, if not outright say, that yes, his dad was a Mandalorian, Stone or whatever, Jango. So, I don't know how that wasn't made apparent to that character in the Clone Wars that stated that Jango Fett was just a common bounty hunter and how he didn't know he acquired the armor, but what we've seen, of course, in the video game Star Wars Bounty Hunter, from what I understand, is also now considered non-canon. So, anyone that wants to reference anything from that game may as well not, because apparently that just didn't happen now, from what I'm aware of. But, maybe again we'll see more of this in the Book of Boba Fett. Hopefully, fingers crossed. So, yeah. Anyway, moving on to the next episode. This is going to be a long fucking review. To see Bill Burr's character come back, yeah, that was pretty cool, because he was just playing an outright fucking dickhead in the first season. So, to see him actually have a soul and a heart in this new episode was pretty awesome. So I really liked the fact that, he was asking questions to the Mandalorian that a lot of fans will be wondering as well, such as, so is it that you can't take off your helmet, or is it you can't show your face? Because there's a difference. I'm like, yeah, fair point. And then, yeah, to see Boba Fett show up now with his refurbished armor. Don't get me wrong, I love that iconic look that he had in his tattered and torn armor, but I do understand the point of why he would want to refurbish the armor. And yeah, it looks pretty cool, including just going along with his, the new voice as well. I gotta say, no, I love that new voice. Even when he's traveling towards the light cruiser, just when he was like, the Empire, they're back. I'm like, yes, keep that voice, please. It sounds awesome. And so, anyway, yeah, showing up again, anyway, there was a very simplistic episode. Basically, they need to go to the computer to get information as to where Moff Gideon's light cruiser is located, and so, yeah, pretty cool action scene as well. Reminded me a little bit of the actions piece from the movie, the Han Solo movie, where they're on top of the train because they're trying to get the, what the fuck was it called, the Coaquium or some shit, and yeah, same kind of general principle. They're on top of a vehicle as other marauders are trying to hijack it, and so yeah, once of course they were able to successfully get that into the Imperial base, what's it, Bill Burr's character recognizes that dude who, just for trivia, that guy played one of the the White Walker King in Game of Thrones. Not in every single season, but at least one of the seasons. I think it was maybe 2 of the seasons though, but beside the point. And of course, remember how I mentioned Tremors before? That dude is in the one of the latest Tremor films. So don't know which one that is because they've made a lot of them. But anyway, I'm just saying he's in it. And I'm like, okay, cool. You know, I don't know why, he kind of reminds me of Rorschach from Watchmen, just in the shape of his face. But to see the Mandalorian actually take the helmet off and reveal his face, and I just want to quickly step out of this review to mention something. There were rumors going around that Pedro Pascal was complaining about wanting more FaceTime and everything like that, which, you know, if you're not in the know, that was all a rumor. It wasn't true. From what I understand, he just said it jokingly. Someone else that heard it thought he was being serious and then reported it, and next thing it's, you know, gone blown up. But anyway, him having more FaceTime was already something that was always meant to be in the script. You know, that wasn't because he complained. From what I understand, he's very happy to be in this role and very grateful for it. So, you know, well done. Moving on. So anyway, we see his face, and I'm like, man, there's nothing he won't do for Grogu. I'm telling you that now. And then, yeah, the scene where you see him with Bilbo's character sitting at the table with the other Imperial officer, as, yeah, I'm like, this is the moment where I'm trying to, where I'm almost warming up to Bilbo's character, because he's like, yeah, was it really great for all those guys' families or whatever, with all the deaths and stuff like that going on? And basically, you know, he was just referencing the, you know, the horrors of the war. And so the part I really liked is I'm like, oh man, he's gonna shoot the fucking guy. I can see this coming. And then of course he shoots the dude. And I'm like, nice. But then just to see him like do the sharpshooting shit, I'm like, okay, pretty awesome. Especially since I noticed a little bit of center axis rear look in there, which is a shooting style that I actually use. So when you're in really close quarter, one of the techniques is to bring close to the chest, which I saw him do, where he leans back on the chair and puts it to his chest, and even though it's not 2 hands, it's 1, but fair enough, I think blasters have less recoil than a real gun, because, you know, fictitious universe, fictitious guns. And, you know, pops the other stormtrooper and everything, and then, you know, of course they manage to get out of there through the window, and they jump into the Slave One. The scene I really liked is where he's like, yeah, hand me that cycler rifle, and then, you know, blows at the base. Just that one line alone redeemed his character from all the arsehole behavior that he showed in the first season, which is where he goes, we all have to sleep at night, which, you know, was a reference to, you know, something he said earlier in the episode. And I'm like, okay, yeah, not bad. This dude's got a heart. That's, yeah, okay, I'm down with this. And then, of course, you know, the TIE fighters are chasing after Slave One. I'm like, oh man, you guys really should have fucking read the manual to know what ship you're fucking with right now. And my first thought was, please drop a seismic charge, that would just be so cool. And then, of course, they dropped a seismic charge. I'm like, the fan service in this season is just incredible, thank you so very much. And I'm like, oh, waiting for it, really being annoying to my girlfriend. I'm like, honey, wait for the silence, wait for it. She's like, shut the fuck up! I'm like, and so, yeah, next thing, silence, and, you know, it's just basically like a, even though as much as I hate dubstep, it kind of like sounds like part of like a bass drop of a dubstep or audio. And so, yeah, I don't know, there's just something so satisfying about that sound, like how it breaks the speed of sound with silence and then, so yeah, that was cool. Even though we only dropped one, that's all you need, and that was enough to make me go, yes, I'm satisfied with that. And then of course, you know, Gina Carano lets Bilbo's character go, because of, you know, the noble deed that he did. And I'm like, alright, nice. That's pretty cool. Then that episode ends with the Mandalorian, of course, quoting Moff Gideon's quote to him from what he said in reference to the child. So, if you don't know what I'm talking about, well, go and watch every episode from, you know, the very from season 1 and onwards to that episode, and you'll know what I mean. But yeah, I think a lot of people watching this video right now know what I'm talking about in the reference. I'm like, yes, cool. I love it. I don't know, as weird and cliche as this may sound, I do really love it when they got callbacks to references that took place earlier in an episode or previous episodes. You know, it's just something I really like, especially when they do it well, which they did. So, yeah. Now for the final episode. Here's the highlights of what I really like for this one. The opening where that dude who, I recognize that actor from somewhere, and afterwards I'm like, he was in the TV series of Shadowhunters. And, yeah, I'm like, why are you trying to antagonize Cara Dune? Like, just why? Because this is the motherfucker that said he was on the Death Star and saw Alderaan, get destroyed. And the whole time just like, you bitch, you got an opening, shoot him in the face. And then she shoots him in the face. And I'm like, she just shot him in the face. Nice. My girl, right there. And yeah, the other part I really love was when they're in the, the canteen or whatever the fuck that was called. Basically it's where they went to see Bo-Katan and then is her name Tuscan Reeves? I apologize if I fucked up that character's first name, but I know the surname is Reeves because, I just thought, Keanu Reeves. Anyway, and so yeah, they go in there, she's kind of like, yeah, I don't really want to help. And then of course changes her mind after the, scuffle between Boba and Sasha Banks' character. But man, the build-up to that where, she's just like, you're not a Mandalorian. He's like, never said I was. So now I'm kind of wondering, is he or isn't he? It's kind of hard to say. And yeah, I've seen all the fan theories that are done between that particular moment as to why he didn't just outright say he is or isn't. But still, I don't know. I just think there's a lot more to explore there. And I'm kind of one of those people that likes definitive proof as well as just a downright non-grey area answer. I just want a black and white answer that's very definitive. So, beside the point though, this is one thing where I was a little bit on the fence with something I didn't like with this particular scene, and that's where Sasha Banks, you really see that wrestling personality come through, because even though I'm not really a fan of wrestling, I still know enough about it to know that you got that pre-banter speeches before the actual match, which really seemed to come through, where she was saying to Boba, yeah, you'll be breathing through the back of a Mantha tank or whatever, and I'm like, really, is it WWE time already? Or Raw, or whatever the fuck it is that she's on. I don't fucking know. I don't follow her wrestling career. I just know that she is a wrestler and she's in the fucking Mandalorian. But, yeah, as they're fighting and everything like that, I'm like, man, if that fight went on any longer, do you actually know... Bitch, why the fuck would you say to him, I didn't know side characters, or sidekicks, were allowed to speak? Well, then you better sit the fuck down. Okay? You're the fucking sidekick to fucking Bo-Katan, motherfucker. And if you knew who the fuck Boba Fett was... I don't think he'd be mouthing off that much, because he would bend you over him and break you in half with his fucking dick. Don't fuck with Boba, motherfucker. Sit down, shut the fuck up. Anyway, moving on from there. So yeah, anyway, they go to the light ship, they attack that, we get a little bit of the electronic music, which was kind of cool. I never heard that before in Star Wars, when when the Dark Troopers are being introduced. And so, long story short, I thought, yeah, seeing them fight was pretty awesome. They were a little bit too robotic for my movement. I thought, at least with all the money that would have gone into making them, they would have had a bit more of a flow to them. But, all in all, yeah, it was pretty satisfying to watch. I thought, yeah, this is pretty neat. And then, the fight scene between Moff Gideon and Din Djarin was also pretty cool as well. The other thing I was confused about is Bo-Katan not wanting to take the Darksaber, because she took it without fighting in battle in Rebels, but maybe that's actually why she doesn't want to do that this time. She wants to do it legitimately the Mandalorian way, so that she feels like she deserves to be wielding that saber. But again, more fan theories on that out there, but I just want to talk about what did happen in the episode. And now comes for the piece de resistance, the fucking Jedi showing up, and oh my god, this fucking moment really surprised me, because I had no clue Luke Skywalker was going to show up in this season. I thought maybe a Jedi may show up, and I was thinking maybe it'll be Mace Windu, maybe it'll actually be, what the fuck was the guy's name? The redhead from the video game Fallen Order? I don't actually remember. Cal, that was it. I thought maybe it'd be one of them, because, the actor for Cal looks identical to how he does in the game. It's a possibility. So anyway, yeah, the second was like, what X-Wing coming in? I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, wait, is this a Jedi? Is this a Jedi? And through the cameras we see the dude in the clearly what is a Jedi cloak, and I'm like, it's a Jedi. I'm like, who is this? Then I see the green lightsaber. I'm like, no, is this Luke? Is this fucking Luke? Then this will give you an idea how much of a nerd I am, because I've memorized Luke's lightsaber, the green one, because I actually, when I was a kid, I had the little toy of that. It's the one with like the little fold-out pipes and shit like that for the blade, and it ran on D-size batteries. Ever since Attack of the Clones, they made those to run on C-size batteries because they were thinner, and a lot of kids were complaining about the fact that the lightsaber was, too big for their hands. But that's why I recognize his lightsaber, because I had the toy of that as a child, and I'm like, that's Luke's lightsaber. And my girlfriend is like, yeah, he's also got a glove over the hand indicating the robot hand. I'm like, well, fuck you, I didn't see that. I'm too busy staring at the lightsaber because I'm a fucking nerd. And, yeah. Just, man, seeing him, like, fuck up, what's it called, the Dark Troopers left, right, and center. Yeah, that was very satisfying. And I'm just at the edge of my seat the entire time during that, trying to wonder who the fuck this Jedi is. And the reason why, even though it was Luke's lightsaber, I thought maybe it's not, was because, back in the first episode, I thought maybe that was Boba Fett, and yet it wasn't. So I'm like, well, until I see a face. Yeah. And the one other thing too is that the last Dark Trooper, he force crushed to death, which, what I understand, was a forbidden Jedi technique, but maybe that was just for organic beings and it's okay for synthetics. So I don't know. But yeah, shows up, and then what felt like an eternity at the time it took for him to reveal his hood. I don't know what it was just something about when I saw his face. I had an awesome overload that I just sort of went numb. And I actually thought it was, Sebastian Stan, with a bit of, CGI work. I didn't actually know it was Mark Hamill himself, de-aged. But either way, a lot of people were complaining about the fact how, it looks shit and blah blah blah. Like, I don't fucking care. One, it looked a lot better than Moff Tarkin in Rogue One, that's for sure. And I didn't actually think it looked that bad. And even if it wasn't like the most perfect looking CGI ever, this is a case where, the story was something that was a lot more important than having the most aesthetically pleasing looking CGI. Besides, they did what they could with the budget that they had and the time that they had. So, fair enough. And I actually thought it looked pretty good. And yeah, there were scenes in this particular moment too where Din Djarin had to then, finally let Grogu go, and taking off the helmet and everything. That was the part where I'm just like, anyway, my girlfriend's like, oh, this is sad, isn't it? Then she looks to me and all she saw was a tear coming down. I'm like, oh my god, I promised I wouldn't do this again ever since the finale of Clone Wars, but here we are. And she's like, it's okay, honey. I'm like, shut up. It's sad, okay? Just let me have this moment. So, anyway, I gotta say, that's powerful storytelling, so well done to all the filmmakers that brought this to life. And yes, I did actually see the after-credits footage of Boba taking over Jabba's palace, and I'm like, what the fuck? Bib Fortuna's still alive? How the fuck did he survive the explosion of Jabba's sail barge? I thought he perished in that along with everyone else, but apparently not. And of course, much like Boba, he's put on a bit of weight as well. It's that Tatooine food. So yeah, long story short, we all know what happens. He takes over, pops the motherfucker, and then, he's like, my place now, bitch, what? So, that's pretty cool, and with his literal partner in crime, Fennec. I'm also wondering, I swear there's got to be more to it than, okay, when we saw Boba get eaten by the Sarlacc, I don't think that was the last time that he and Bib Fortuna had seen each other. I think there was a lot more that happened there where Bib either left him for dead or fucked him over in some way. So if I had to guess what I would say, this is just speculation here, that the explosion of the sail barge damaged the Sarlacc and Boba was, trying to crawl out, but prior to the explosion, Bib Fortuna jumped out a window or something like that and survived, and Boba probably asked for help, and then Bib's like, no, and just left him for dead, which probably pissed Boba off a bit. So, that's just, my guess as to probably what happened, but, we'll see what actually happened should they explain it in the Book of Boba Fett, which, at first I thought, is that a literal book, like they're doing a novel or something? But yes, as it turns out, that is actually going to be a mini-series, so, hells yeah. Dude, anything like Boba Fett content related, I'm all down for, and so, especially once we saw how fucking amazing he was at kicking ass in the 6th episode of the season, yeah, more Boba Fett content, please. I need this in my life, immediately. And so, yeah, Fennec's in there as well. It'd be great to see, that actress reprise her role and, do a lot more cool things. Yeah. Anyway, there was something else I was going to mention as well, and that was the fact that, yes, a lot of people were thinking that Book of Boba Fett was actually going to be the 3rd season of Mandalorian. from all the research I've done, I don't think it's going to be the case. I think we are going to see a release of Season 3 of The Mandalorian at the same time we see a release for Book of Boba Fett, which, hey, I'm cool for. It's just more amazing Mandalorian content that I am all on board for. So, yeah, that's basically sums up my little thoughts and opinions on this show as well. So, and then of course I went and watched all the behind the scenes stuff for it as well, because I really love all that kind of stuff. Being a movie buff, I really love knowing how they came about and brought a project to life. So yeah, anything I really like a lot, I'll always go and watch the behind the scenes stuff for it, because more information is something that I feel can't put me in a worse position. But anyway, that's my very long, nerdy rant about how much I loved Season 2 of The Mandalorian. And so I should probably also take this time to say thank you to every single person that had any sort of contribution to bringing this season to life. So, a lot of people only credit the actors, the writers, and the directors, but there's a lot more to that as well, and including the music, which I should probably give a lot more credit to this musician as well. So Mr. Ludwig, really, really, really awesome stuff. Because what I noticed is that outside of John Williams, all the other live action material, where they have different music composers, and I'm not saying they did a bad job, I'm just saying they do seem like they're trying to emulate and copy what John Williams did, whereas the Mandalorian composer was just like, nah, I'm just gonna do what I think's gonna work for the show, and hey, hats off to him, it worked really well. The other composer as well is Mr. Kiner, I think it's pronounced, or Kiner, I'm pretty sure it's Kiner, who did the music for Clone Wars and Rebels, and of course it's not live action, so of course he needed to do something different to that, but I just want to say, yeah, that guy's a good composer as well. So yes, the music as well for The Mandalorian, very fitting. Just everything he just did I thought suited it perfectly, even the stuff that sounded very non-traditional Star Wars, like the electric borderline dubstep sounding music that was used to theme the Dark Troopers, it still worked. And I don't care if it sounds like John Williams or completely different. Hey, if it works, use it. I'm completely okay with that. So yeah, I wonder what's in store next for this show. I really hope they still continue with the same music creator, because that guy really is sort of the sound of the Mandalorian. So I'm just saying, you take away the music with Star Wars, you're left with a very different product. And so yeah, everyone else that did stuff like this, the stunt performers as well, the unsung heroes, because a lot of the times the Mandalorian and Boba Fett, it wasn't the actors, it was stunt performers, and so they also contribute to making these characters seem amazing. Even the lighting effects, the special effects, all this other stuff is really things that make this series as awesome as it is. So I just wanted to give credit to where credit's due, and so all these people are out of hand here. So yeah, very well done, very amazing season. I very much enjoyed it a hell of a lot. It's very rare they'll ever get hyped for anything these days, and so for me to actually be really enthralled with stuff that's going on with this show says a lot. That speaks volumes on its own. So yeah, thanks for tuning in to this very long fucking video. I didn't expect it to go this long, but then again, knowing me the way I am, I always run off on tangents, so sorry about that, everyone. But yeah, I'll wrap this up now. So I'm not going to give the usual "May the Force be with you" cliche with Star Wars videos I've done in the past. I'll just say thanks for tuning in if you made it this far. Yeah, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching. Go watch some films.